Tonight, trying to turn the page on Alberta's controversial book ban. Why the province is rewriting its own directive weeks before it was set to take effect.
We were hoping that the school boards would be able to identify those on their own and work with us.
What led to the change as a major school board hits pause on a review of 500,000 titles?
So this is what I think about Crown Royal. That's what they could do.
What's behind this public tirade by Ontario's premier? And a defiant show of unity drawing international attention. Why the leaders of Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran are coming together for this landmark moment.
What you're seeing is the rest of the world making it very clear that America cannot dictate the terms of the global order.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. As millions of students headed back to class today, Alberta's government appeared to back down after backlash from critics who accused the province of trying to ban books in school libraries by October. Premier Danielle Smith revealing today a ministerial order will be rewritten after Edmonton's school division said the original order was so broad it would have covered literary classics such as Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, George Orwell's 1984, and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Smith accused the division of purposely misunderstanding the government's order. Meanwhile, Calgary's Board of Education said today its review of more than 500,000 titles is now on pause. CTV's Tyson Fedor leads us off tonight with a change and the other major factor in Alberta's bumpy start to the new school year.
It was the first day back in class for Calgary students, a new school year mired in controversy.
We were hoping that the school boards would be able to identify those on their own and work with us to try to make sure that pornographic images are not being shown to young children. Clearly, we have to be a bit more directive on that.
The province's ban of books with sexual content in school libraries was paused. It was to come into effect October 1st, but schools and teachers were already busy removing books and covering up their libraries to comply with the government order. Critics say this pause is proof of wasted time and resources.
Premier, you asked if the school boards needed you to hold their hand and teach them how to do their job. Anytime, Premier, Albertans are happy to hold your hand and teach you how to be the Premier.
Author Margaret Atwood slammed the province once The Handmaid's Tale appeared on Edmonton Public Schools' banned list. Now the province's education ministry says classic literary works will remain, while books with what it considers graphic pornographic images will not.
We're pretty responsible with what our children consume inside and outside the school.
I'm definitely in favor of teaching our kids about the world as it is right now.
This comes as teachers and the government are at odds over a new contract.
Class size and complexity of our students are not being met. We are the least funded school jurisdiction in terms of spending that boards have on students in all of Canada and have been for years.
Last week, talks broke down, leaving some parents on edge.
I hope they can resolve things. We were watching for it over the weekend, and it doesn't sound like anything was really improving, so I honestly didn't think we're coming back to school today.
We're trying to balance the schedule.
Teachers have until October 7th to strike with 72 hours notice. The province says a lockout would only be used as a reactionary response that also requires 3 days notice.
Honestly, it's always in the back of our mind, but we proceed as if it is a normal first day of school. We just keep going forward until we're told otherwise.
One city councillor wants the city to open the doors to recreation centres and swimming pools if teachers are off the job.
Allowing the kids to recreate there as opposed to being wandering aimlessly on the street or home alone.
As for students, they hope the uncertainty does not interfere with the excitement of back to school.
I want to meet the new kids and see if they're friendly.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Well, as mentioned, a lot of nerves and excitement today for the first day of classes.
Scared and excited.
Scared and excited.
Scared and excited.
Who's in my class and what are we gonna do? What subjects are we gonna do?
Track and field and cross country. Math, reading, and art.
For parents, though, cause for concern and new warnings tonight about the risks children face as they go back to school. CTV's Allison Bamford explains.
A picture-perfect start to the first day of school. Pre-class jitters masked by all levels of excitement.
It's gonna be fun this year, I hope.
I mean, it is school, so you can't be too excited.
As kids across the country return to class, a new report from Children First Canada is highlighting the top threats facing students.
We're seeing epidemic levels of child poverty, child abuse, bullying, mental health concerns.
1.4 million kids lived in poverty in Canada last year, the most since 2017. Inside the classroom and online, it's the rise in bullying and racism that's raising concerns. 71% of kids between the ages of 12 and 17 say they were bullied in the past year, according to the report, and a quarter of youth were cyberbullied.
What that looks like sometimes is the name calling. It looks like target rumors. It looks at also excluded from activities.
Issues at school that psychiatrists say can impact a child's well-being.
It provides so many positives in their education and a stabilizing force when we talk about really healthy things like routines and schedules. But schools also, one of the primary sources of stress for kids.
Social media and AI can escalate mental health problems for students, while the advocacy group is calling for a national strategy to address these concerns. Experts suggest parents talk to their kids about the challenges they face so that students can also be a part of the solution. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
On Canadian campuses, Ottawa's cap on international students is creating challenges not only impacting some programs, but also potentially triggering a loss of talent. CTV's Maria Saru reports.
The doors swing open. It's the first day back for students at Holland College. But this semester, there are fewer options, the fallout from Canada's cap on international students.
There's financial issues, there's social issues, there's cultural issues.
Earlier this year, Holland College suspended 8 programs and downsized 3. Some were tied to the province's biggest sectors, like tourism and hospitality. The school's president points to the changing rules on post-grad work permits. Eligibility for international students in college-level programs depends on graduating from fields linked to labor shortages. He says Ottawa determined the affected programs don't fit the bill.
That's not what our industry tells us. I'm getting letters from the industry associations and operators themselves. It begs understanding because the idea that there's no labor shortage in these areas is simply untrue.
Canada's temporary 2-year cap aimed to cut new international study permits by 35% in 2024 and another 10% in 2025. Across Atlantic Canada and here at Holland College, the drop is having an outsized effect, according to education experts.
There are future professionals, business leaders, community leaders, healthcare professionals, and they're just so important to the development of our region.
In a statement to CTV, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada said the aim is to create a pipeline of international student graduates whose skills match the country's long-term economic and labor needs, adding eligible fields include healthcare, social services, education and trade. Canada's Auditor General has launched a probe of the international student program. That report is due in Parliament next year. Maria Saru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
And staying in the region, a dire situation for a community in Newfoundland and Labrador that has already faced wildfires. Now it's declared a state of emergency over a lack of water.
Around 12:35 this afternoon, we got a call from the St. John's Regional Water Authority to tell us that there was no water flowing into the lines in Conception Bay South.
The reason, officials say there was a leak into the main water supply line feeding the town. The expectation is the town's water will run dry overnight. A mandatory conservation order is now in place limiting water for emergency needs, and local businesses will be closed indefinitely. Overseas, the death toll in Afghanistan has now surpassed 1,400 and thousands injured after a devastating earthquake in the eastern mountainous part of the country. The magnitude 6 quake struck several provinces, flattening villages and trapping people in homes made of mud and wood. The difficult terrain is hampering rescue and relief efforts. And an estimated 1,000 people are dead after a massive landslide in Sudan's western region of Darfur, one of the deadliest natural disasters in the African country's history, according to a rebel group that controls the area. China is flexing its military and political muscles tonight with a major parade in the heart of Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping is presiding over the parade in Tiananmen Square to commemorate the end of the Second World War. Also there, the leaders of Russia, North Korea, and Iran, walking in together in what's being considered an open challenge to the U.S.-led world order. Late tonight, Donald Trump on Truth Social telling Xi to give his, quote, warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. Here is CTV's Michael Couture.
A rare foreign trip for the North Korean leader. Kim Jong-un arrived in Beijing on his armored train to attend a military parade. The display of might, a symbol of China's ultimate goal.
Xi Jinping has been promoting this idea since 2017 that China will become the new global hegemon in what he refers to as the community of the common destiny of mankind.
It comes after a two-day meeting with nations representing 40% of the world's population, including Russia and India, a country that is dealing with 50% tariffs from the U.S.
I think what you're seeing is the rest of the world making it very clear that America cannot dictate the terms of the global order anymore.
Do you interpret that as a challenge to this? And are you concerned at all about those countries?
No.
U.S. President Donald Trump unbothered by the gathering and unconvinced the world order is shifting beneath his feet.
China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know, but China needs us much more than we need them.
Still, some former diplomats believe China is making some progress in forming alliances away from America, and it brings countries to the table like India, Iran, and Pakistan.
I think Xi is succeeding in presenting an alternative to the multilateral rules-based order that we've lived under for the last 80 years.
Former Ambassador Arif Lalani believes Western countries like Canada need to address the fact that the economic and demographic power is shifting away from the U.S. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you. Donald Trump was back in the public eye today, making a flurry of security-related announcements, starting with a lethal strike on an alleged drug boat tied to a Venezuelan cartel.
We just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat.
Trump released this footage of the vessel being destroyed in the southern Caribbean and said 11 people were killed. The White House recently announced plans to boost its presence near Venezuela and put a bounty on its president. Trump is also vowing to expand the use of the military in another major American city, as a California judge ruled that the U.S. president's use of troops to fight crime in that state was illegal. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malvin.
After a brutally violent weekend on the streets of Chicago, President Donald Trump made his move.
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in.
Calling Chicago a hellhole. Trump plans to deploy federal troops just as he has done in Washington. Over 2,000 National Guard armed and walking the streets. And last June in Los Angeles, the Guard and Marines were deployed to arrest and put down immigration protests.
If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country.
Chicago's governor couldn't be more blunt, saying, "You are not welcome here."
I refuse to play a reality game show with Donald Trump again. What I want are the federal dollars that have been promised to Illinois and Chicago for violence prevention programs.
And calling the president's comments unhinged.
Have we truly lost all sense of sanity in this nation, that we treat this as normal?
Still, Chicago's bracing for what played out in Los Angeles as soon as this week. Even as a California judge ruled, the White House broke a federal law by using the military for domestic law enforcement.
Instead of using militarized ICE agents to terrify our communities here in Chicago, they should direct those resources to taking down gun traffickers so that we can finally put a stop to the violence.
But for some who live here in Chicago,
we don't need a Band-Aid to cover up the problem. What we need is a solution.
In a rare united response last week, 19 Democratic governors condemned Trump's threat to send in the troops, calling it an alarming abuse of presidential power.
Omar?
All right, Joy Melvin in Washington, where we are getting some developing news tonight from the Republican-led U.S. House Oversight Committee, which has released tens of thousands of files related to the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The top Democrat on the panel says that most of the documents were public anyway. Meantime, Canada has finally issued a public statement in support of a Canadian judge on the International Criminal Court, nearly 2 weeks after she was sanctioned by the Trump administration for authorizing the court's investigation into American troops in Afghanistan. Other judges were also sanctioned. Canada helped establish the court. Today, the Foreign Affairs Minister says she has the utmost confidence in Judge Kimberly Prost, calling the work of all ICC judges vital. But she offered no criticism of the decision. Critics say Donald Trump is targeting judges. The U.S. does not belong to the court. Donald Trump is also vowing to take his tariff fight to the Supreme Court, and he wants an expedited ruling on the case after a federal appeals court found the tariffs illegal last week. CTV's Rachel Aiello on what it means for Canada ahead of a key meeting tomorrow.
Without the tariffs, this country is in serious, serious trouble.
Donald Trump is standing by his trade tactics, so much so that the president is taking his fight to keep them to the highest U.S. court.
If that ruling ever went against us, I guess we'd have to give back hundreds of billions. We would have to give trillions and trillions of dollars back to countries that have been ripping us off for the last 35 years.
Trump offering no indication he'll be dropping tariffs on this country or any other anytime soon comes one day after Canada officially lifted its counter tariffs on U.S. goods. But this cabinet minister says that shouldn't be interpreted as Prime Minister Mark Carney capitulating.
That's not happening. We're trying to match exactly what the Americans have done.
The retreat from retaliation was meant to preserve Canada's current trade arrangement with the U.S., while governments work to build up the domestic economy. To that end, today, the federal government held a Made in Canada summit to leverage steel and aluminum in major rail, ship, and ferry projects.
Very practical action to support hard-hit Canadian industries.
As the effects of the trade war continue to be felt, an angry Doug Ford poured one out for the workers at a Crown Royal plant caught in the crossfire.
Start supporting companies that make whiskey here.
Supporting Canadian companies is also set to be on the agenda when Carney convenes his cabinet for a special closed-door planning session in the GTA starting tomorrow. Omar?
All right, Rachel, thank you. Quebec announced it's pulling the plug on Northvolt, a Swedish company behind plans for a multi-billion-dollar EV battery factory in the province, which has already invested millions. Here's CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin.
Some trees were cut, the site prepared on this vast stretch of land east of Montreal where the Northvolt plant was to be built. But Quebec has now made it official. The project that was to give energy transition a boost is dead. The minister responsible for the file in Quebec, Christine Fréchette, announced the end of its financing deal for the battery plant and a plan to try to recuperate some of the money it invested. The project was launched in 2023, touted as the largest private investment in Quebec history. Swedish manufacturer Northvolt, then run by former Tesla executives, pledged to produce enough batteries to power 1 million electric vehicles a year on land in McMasterville and Saint-Basile-le-Grand.
But we couldn't help glancing at Quebec.
The project was touted as a cornerstone of the Filière Batterie, Quebec's bid to be a hub for EV battery production. Ottawa pledged money but hadn't put it in yet, while Quebec taxpayers spent nearly $500 million. Northvolt hit a series of roadblocks. Critics blamed the government for ignoring environmental assessment rules. EV sales also slowed, and Northvolt's financial woes added up.
Évidemment, on est déçus.
The mayor of McMasterville now says the town is disappointed to lose the thousands of high-paying jobs promised, but it's looking to the future. And Quebec says while Northvolt is done, the province's EV battery supply chain is still in the works. Now the municipality is looking to see just what else will be built here to replace this massive project. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, McMasterville, Quebec.
Coming up.
He responded like any father, any man would.
What a heartbroken man is revealing about his brother's death in a terrifying home invasion. An Ontario family is devastated tonight. They say a father has died trying to protect his family following a home invasion.
My niece said, who's 4 years old, I no longer have a dad. And when my sister-in-law asked her, how do you know that? Her reply was just, they shot him.
Police are confirming 3 people entered a home in Vaughan, Ontario early Sunday and demanded valuables while pointing a gun at the man's 3 daughters. His brothers said he tried to intervene but was killed in front of his kids. Police also say the home invasion appeared to be targeted but won't confirm there was a shooting and are looking for at least 3 suspects. Still ahead, what we know about who is replacing fashion's most famous editor-in-chief. Legendary fashion executive Anna Wintour has named her replacement as top editor at Vogue magazine. Chloe Mal will become head of editorial content for Vogue US. Wintour will remain as global editorial director. The 39-year-old Mal was previously the editor of Vogue's website. She's also the daughter of award-winning actress Candice Bergen and French filmmaker Louis Mal. Still ahead, we'll tell you about the new Canadian member of a very exclusive cast. When the new season of Saturday Night Live kicks off in October, there will be a performer from Barrie, Ontario among the cast members.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
I'm so sorry. Are you okay?
What are you doing?
That's Veronica Slowikoyska on the Netflix show Tires. She is one of 5 new performers appearing on the show. The comedian also built a large following online with her offbeat humor. But she is far from the first Canadian on SNL.
It's Friday, it's 10:30, it's time to party. I'm your excellent host, Wayne Campbell. With me, as always, is Garth.
Party on, Wayne.
Party on, Garth.
One of the most famous was Mike Myers, who created a number of major characters and famously returned on an episode earlier this year with a Canada is not for sale t-shirt and could be seen mouthing the words, elbows up.
This ain't safe. I mean, it's Corey. I mean, the kids on the farm. Hello.
Dan Aykroyd was part of the show's original cast in 1975, and more Canadians would appear over the years, including Phil Hartman, Norm Macdonald, and Martin Short, which all makes sense because the show was created by a Canadian, Lorne Michaels, who remains the executive producer. And that is a snapshot of this Tuesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.